So here we go. Let me welcome you to the show. All right, Hot Breath Verse. Welcome back to the Hot Breath Podcast, your weekly guide to comedy mastery. I'm your host, comedian Joel Byers. My guest today has over 100 million views on YouTube alone, with several million across all of his social media platforms. But his viral success did not come without hard work. Starting comedy almost 2 decades ago in New York City, handing out flyers in the winter, wearing newspaper under his jacket to stay warm. 14 years later of hard work, he hits viral gold. He has since been an author. He's owned comedy clubs. He's produced comedy festivals. He has his own comedy grant where he supports other comedians as well. And you know, here at Hot Breath, we're all about supporting comedians. So this gentleman is the perfect guest. So welcome to the show, Steve Hofstetter.
I like that you knew your shit. Like that's you did your homework. Because so many times, like you do a morning radio show, and they'll be like, "So tell us about yourself."
Right,
like, it's on the sheet in front of you, man.
Exactly. Yeah, I have a whole sheet of research I do on my guests.
Look at that. Nice.
So I know our time is limited.
Yes.
So you are the Heckler Wrangler. So maybe we start there. In terms of the core listeners all around the world, comedians and comedy nerds.
Yeah.
So maybe break down how to handle a heckler for us.
So the way you handle a heckler is you make sure the audience hates them more than you do.
Okay.
You give them enough rope to hang themselves. You don't wrangle them, they wrangle themselves. And the other thing is that voice that tells you what to say and what not to say, shut it off and just go with your instinct. Now, the trick is you have to not be a horrible human being. You know, you have to not have that. Like when Michael Richards said what he said, the tape doesn't show you how awful the people were before he said what he said. But that doesn't matter because he said something horrible because he thought something horrible. I would never even thought what he said, let alone said it out loud in front of human beings. So you have to make sure you're a decent human being also, so you don't cross the line.
And anger can come off a little edgy too.
One of the things that I have to constantly remind myself is if you can lean back instead of leaning forward, it'll come off much better.
Interesting.
Because that person is trying to get to you. And so if you can just laugh at how miserably they're failing, then it'll be much better than being like, well, I'll tell you another thing, you piece of shit. You know, it's a little bit better to...
So you almost let them like hang themselves in a sense.
You do. And there's one actually I didn't get on film where it might be the meanest thing I've ever said to anybody. I was in Ann Arbor at the Comedy Showcase, and there was a very big bridal party. And there was one woman who would not shut up. She was just making everything about her. And finally I was talking to her, and I found out she was the maid of honor. And first I did the whole like, oh, great, so you're going to be talking at this wedding? Be like, you're making this about you. Your friend's special day, and this is still about you? And finally, when she wouldn't shut up, I said, I really wish you luck in catching the bouquet at the wedding. And she said, oh, I'm married. And I go, yeah, but your husband's going to leave you, and you're going to die alone. So I wish you luck. And so, I mean, I told a woman her husband would leave her, and she'd die alone, and the audience applauded. Because they wanted way worse for her than what I said. They were like, "Oh, he's going real easy on her," because she was just the worst.
Right.
And that's really the trick. It's the gladiator. You know, you win the crowd, you win the day.
But there's a big learning curve with this, and
sure.
A question I ask all comics on here is like their most epic boo story or epic bombing. So like, what comes to mind in your long career?
When I learned, well, if we're keeping it on hecklers, when I learned that you needed the crowd on your side. There was this kid when Facebook was starting to pop in 2005. There's this one kid who would send me hateful messages all the time. And, you know, your picture is tied to it. I knew who he was. I knew where he lived. I knew what school he went to. He went to Indiana University. And so I was performing in Bloomington at Bear's Place. And this kid comes to the show. He's in the front row. I recognize him immediately. Oh. And he is sarcastically laughing. So it's right in the beginning of my set, and he's just going, ha, 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 which most of the audience can't hear, first of all, which is part of why when someone says something to me, I repeat it back. Oh. I repeat it back both to give me another second to think, but also so that everyone in the back also hears it.
Ooh, good trick.
But this guy is just basically laughing a little bit weird. Now, I know he's an asshole. I have a history with him. That crowd doesn't have a history with him. So when I go off on him and I try to tell them, oh, everything's falling
No,
there.
we're good.
We're in a prop closet. This is fun. When I try to tell him, like when I try to tell them that, oh, this is a guy who's been sending me nasty messages for the last 6 months, I just look like an insane person. Like I just look like I'm delusional. And I lost that crowd so hard. And there were maybe 10 people in that crowd who still liked me by the end of that show. I just had to do 45 minutes of just people not rooting for me at all. And at one point during that show, I even said, I know I'm not doing well. Like I had to say that out loud because they weren't on my side. I went off on him too quickly. I needed to let him prove to them that he was an asshole.
Right.
You can't be the only one who knows they're an asshole.
Boom. Yeah, we've all gotten a little antsy on stage, and that happened at the beginning of the
set,
and you had to ride out 45.
Like 2 minutes in, it was rough. It was really, really rough. The MC was a friend of mine. He was the regular host there, Brad Wilhelm, and he afterward made a joke about how we here at Bear's Place really like to support Make-A-Wish, and it was
nice.
which I deserved. I absolutely deserved.
Yeah.
That was a horrible set, and it was because the rest of the set I didn't do anything different. I just, no matter what I said, it wouldn't have worked. They hated me.
And you forged the sword, and now you've become almost known as like the comedian destroys Heckler guy. But it's not without savvy strategy behind it. And you seem to be tapped into. You've always been a forward thinker. At 18, you created your own sports website. You were a lot of people give Dane Cook credit on MySpace, but you were actually in the MySpace game as well.
I was, although Dane was bigger than I was for sure. I've always tried to figure out what is the next thing.
Nice.
And 5 years ago, I was telling every comic, get on Reddit, get on Reddit, get on Reddit, and most of them didn't listen to me. And my video going #1 on Reddit that's what popped. And so there's a lot of things that you always look for what's next, and you don't know it till you find it, and sometimes you'll be wrong. The Heckler stuff, I never tried for that to be a thing. It happened organically. I would just post videos to YouTube because I wanted to post stuff that wasn't my set. I wanted to post outtakes or material I stopped doing.
Right.
But I didn't want to post stuff I was doing currently. And so a lot of those outtakes were Heckler stuff because that's what wasn't supposed to be in the set.
Right.
But what I did notice, I noticed it started touching a nerve. And that's when I started leaning into it. Now, I'm fully aware that being known for dealing with hecklers is not the only thing you want to be known for. But I see it as a gateway to my comedy.
For sure.
It is, when that Heckler video popped, the video I'd posted just before was a self-produced special. And so 3 million people came and watched that video in 3 days. And then another 500,000 of them stayed and watched the special. And that's how I started. I went from, at the time I had 95,000 subscribers. Now I have over 500,000. And it was because I had other content on there. So, the Heckler stuff, I like that it's done well. I don't regret that it's done well at all. A lot of times people who try to make fun of it are actually doing it inaccurately. Will it be like, comedian destroys Heckler in a bunch of capital letters and exclamation points? And I'm like, I've never had a video with anything like that.
Oh, and I wasn't saying you.
No, I know
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
not. I'm saying that it's funny to me that the idea of people using clickbaity titles, people using all caps, people using exclamation points, I've never done that. It's the people who have tried to copy what I've done who have gone too far. And then I get made fun of for that, and because the people who make fun of that stuff are lazy. And if anybody's watching, and I've had people tell me the Heckler thing is a gimmick. And it's funny because one of the people who told me that literally performed stand-up comedy in a bear costume at a laundromat. The Heckler thing isn't a gimmick.
Perfect.
It's just part of what we do. That would be like saying that slam dunking is a gimmick instead of, you just got to shoot threes. And it's like, no, that's one part of your game.
Exactly.
But part of the game for any stand-up comic is being able to ad-lib. And I'm a better ad-libber than I am a writer. And I'm a better writer than I am an actor. So I have to lean into what I'm good at.
What would you tell comics is next now? What is it still YouTube and like having thumbnails and
I don't know yet. I think that, Facebook video. A lot of people are like, oh, no one's on Facebook anymore. Yeah, except for billions of people.
Right.
Yeah. No. Yeah, a lot of cool people aren't on Facebook, but that doesn't matter because cool people are too cool to buy tickets.
Boom.
So put your videos up on Facebook. Never clickbait. Because clickbaiting is incendiary titles that you don't deliver on. You can have incendiary titles if you deliver on them. Don't post screenshots of stuff that's not happening in the video. And just make sure to be honest about what you're delivering and be accessible. In terms of what site is next, I don't know, maybe TikTok. TikTok is popping right now. It's kind of the new Vine. It's a platform that lends itself well to some people and not well to others. So it depends on what you're trying to do. Instagram video is doing really well. I would say subtitle your videos. It takes extra time when you're editing, but make sure your videos are well shot and subtitled. Every comic who believes in yourself at all, invest in a camera. It doesn't have to be anything super nice. You can get a 4K camera for $600 now. So you can get a used 1080 for $150. And if you can't spend $150 on your career, why would anyone else?
Boom. Invest in yourself. All right, so we gotta land this plane here.
Yeah.
In closing, do you have any closing advice for comics out there? What can you bestow us with?
I would say, be patient. It takes a while. It absolutely takes a while. Create all the time. And not just writing stand-up, but find something that you're good at and create that, whether it is, and don't just do something because it worked for someone else. You don't watch this and be like, oh, I can handle hecklers. It's like, if you can, great. But if not, maybe you should do a web series. Maybe you should do vlogs. Maybe you should host a podcast. Maybe you shouldn't. Just because it worked for someone else. I guess all the advice boils down to one thing. Every day, we strive to be original on stage. Being a hack is the worst thing in this business. But so many people are hacks off stage. There are so many people who their promo, their web presence, their social media, it's all done because they saw someone else do it. Imagine if you're going to write a joke because you saw someone else write a joke that same way. So figure out, every comedian is creative. Every comedian is intelligent. You can't be a comedian unless you're those things. So be creative and intelligent off stage, and that will help free up the space to be those things on stage.
All right, the final thing we end with, could you look into the camera, let them know who you are and why they should listen to Hot Breath?
Hey, I'm Steve Hofstetter, and listen to Hot Breath because I just told you to, I think. I haven't seen any of the other episodes, but I'm sure they're great.
All right. Steve, thanks for being on Hot Breath, my man.
Thank you very much.
Have fun up there.
Thanks.
There you go, Hot Breathiverse, Steve Hofstetter. Hey, Hot Brethren and Sistren. If you love comedy as much as we do here at Hot Breath, click the subscribe button to join the Hot Breathiverse, and then watch more videos to get even more comedy tips. Hot Breath.